All right, welcome back to MMA Al Dente. I'm here to talk about Jack Della Madelena versus Danny Roberts. I think Jack's the biggest favorite on the card, minus 550. Maybe it's steeper. I don't know. But he's 12-2 overall, 26 years old, 5'11". He's fighting Danny Roberts, who's 35 years old, 6'1", and Danny has an inch of reach on Jack. The reach is pretty close. Jack is the young prospect. He's 2-0 in the UFC. Got two really impressive first round TKOs over Ramazan Amiev, which is really impressive. And he was taken down and, I don't want to say almost strangled, but he was put into a deep choke early. And he also took out Pete Rodriguez, who is relatively young and inexperienced, but still, he's 1-1 in the UFC now with a win over Mike Jackson. So there's that. But Jack also impressed in his Dana White Contender Series fight against Angelusa. Angelusa, who had a great performance against AJ Fletcher after that. He's a good fighter, Angelusa, even though he's not the most experienced and 25% of his fights are losses. But he's still very tough and very good. And that was a good win for Jack Della Maddalena, which, by the way, that is his last name, Della Maddalena. It's like saying De Niro. So you can't call him Madelena. It'd be like calling Robert De Niro Mr. Nero. But anyway, uh, Ramazan Amiev and Pete Rodriguez took him out in round one, and he's 12-2 overall, 10 TKO victories, 6 of which come in round one. Which, when you fight lower level competition, you expect more round one knockouts. But I think Jack is not so much a round one knockout guy. He's a guy who's going to gain momentum as the fight moves on, make his reads. I mean, we saw that with Pete Rodriguez. Even though he knocked him out in round one, it was still, he took his time. And he's a guy that takes his time, and he's going to be fighting a very good athlete in Danny Roberts, who is a versatile fighter and dangerous everywhere. He's not the most powerful striker, but he's definitely a knockout artist himself. But let me go back to Jack Della Maddalena. His two losses, they're the first two losses of his career. One was a round 3 TKO from the full mount to a really good fighter regionally over there. And Jack Della Maddalena avenged that loss in his last win before the Contender Series fight. He was TKO'd in round 3 and he got a knockout in like 10 seconds. So, loss avenged. And then he also lost in, I think, his two losses are in the first two fights of his career. I think the first loss was the Alton Bates loss, which was the round 3 TKO. And then the second loss is a submission in round 1. Those were in 2015 or 16. I think 16. And since then, he's been on a 12-fight winning streak. And he's looking better and better with each fight. There's a lot of hype behind him for a reason. Danny Roberts, he's way older. He's 35 years old. He's going to be he's 7-5 in the UFC, 18-6 overall, but a lot of his wins in the UFC are pretty dicey. He's got 3 decision wins over Dominic Steele, Ramazan Amiev, and someone else. I wrote it down. David Zawada. And they were all pretty close fights. Could have gone either way, I suppose. Maybe not the Amiev fight so much. But Danny Roberts, look, he scratches and claws. And in all 3 of those fights, he was there in round 3, scratching and clawing, put himself in the realm of winning a decision. And he won it 3 times. So can't fault him for that. But I do think he would need much better wrestling, I think, to pose a threat to Jack Della Maddalena, and Roberts just hasn't shown it throughout his career. He's shown wrestling chops, jiu-jitsu chops. His first UFC victory was a submission win over Nathan Coy, beautiful triangle armbar, and we haven't seen it so much since. We've seen him on the defensive end of jiu-jitsu, especially when he fought Claudio Silva. But Danny Roberts, even in that fight, he's versatile and he's a survivor. Although he was finished in that fight. So I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. But, I do think he's a versatile fighter who could pose problems for Jack Della Maddalena, but it would have to be on the ground. On the feet, sure, Danny has knockout power, and he does have reach and height. And Jack could be TKO. You never know. Anybody can be hurt. But I just think Danny Roberts is too fragile as of late. He's been knocked out 3 times to Mike Perry, Michel Pereira, and Nordine Taleb. He's been knocked around plenty in every other fight. If he doesn't matter who he's fighting, he's getting knocked around, and it's just I don't trust him. I don't trust his durability, and fighting a young killer like Jack Della Madelena, who's very technically sound and conserves his energy wisely too. Not where he's just wasting a fight, letting a fight slip away. But he's a guy who's always planning on getting a finish. And that's what I expect to happen here. I think Jack gets a finish. I couldn't tell you when it would happen. I guess round 1, I'd be more inclined to say it would happen. But my pick, I'll go round 2, TKO, Jack Della Maddalena, because I think Danny Roberts has enough skills and enough, physical attributes to survive a round in one way or another. But eventually, I think Jack Della Maddalena catches him, and that's that. We'll see what happens. I don't have any particular bet for this fight. I was looking at the under, but that'd really just be a bet on Jack Della Maddalena, minus 150 under a round and a half. But my heart's not totally into that. So I'm staying away from this one. The pick, Jack Della Maddalena, wins in round 2. And you know what that means. I'm going to get drunk and bet on Danny Roberts. All those prop bets. All right. Like, share, subscribe, all that horse shit. Check out my other videos.